You know the feeling. You sit down at your desk, you've got a clear goal, a deadline is looming, you know exactly what you need to do. But then, 5 minutes later, your mind is just gone. You're not working, you're thinking about what to make for dinner, or you're replaying some cringy conversation from last week, or maybe you've just mindlessly picked up your phone for the 10th time in an hour without even realizing you were doing it. It honestly feels like your own brain is working against you, doesn't it? Like there's some kind of saboteur inside your own head, actively fighting any attempt you make to just concentrate. If you've ever had that sinking feeling that your ability to focus is just broken, that it's a skill you used to have but somehow lost, I promise you, you are not alone. This constant, exhausting battle for our own attention, it's one of the biggest struggles of our time. It's this silent crisis that leaves us feeling scattered, unproductive, and totally disconnected from what we actually want to do. It feels like a fundamental breakdown in the relationship we have with our own minds, and it's time we figured out how to fix it.
So what is really going on here? Why does it feel like our collective attention span has just shattered into a million little pieces? Is this some kind of personal failing? Are we just not disciplined enough? Is it a lack of willpower that we should just be able to push through if we tried a little harder? Or is there something bigger at play? A more systemic reason why the simple act of concentrating now feels like a rare superpower that only a few people have? Well, the truth is, the world we live in, this digital world we are soaked in 24/7, it wasn't designed for focus. It's designed for the exact opposite. It's an entire ecosystem engineered from the ground up to capture and sell our attention bit by bit. But the problem might not be what you think. And the solution, the way back to clarity, is so much more accessible than you can probably imagine. It's not about finding some magic pill or another productivity hack. No, it's about understanding the system that's working against you and then building a better one for yourself. And we're going to unravel this whole mystery, starting right now.
Okay, let's start with a number that is honestly a little terrifying. 23 minutes. According to research from the University of California, Irvine, that's how long it can take to fully get your focus back after just one single tiny interruption. I want you to just stop and really think about what that means. A single notification banner sliding down from the top of your screen. A quick glance at an email that just popped up. A coworker dropping by your desk to ask a quick question. Each one of those little moments isn't a 30-second distraction. No, it's a 23-minute tax on your brain power. A massive cognitive cost. So let's do the math. If you get interrupted just 3 times in a single hour, you have effectively spent that entire hour in a state of fractured, shallow attention, never once getting into that deep flow state. You've spent the whole time just trying to climb back to where you were before the first interruption even happened. Is it any wonder we can end a full 8-hour day feeling completely drained, but also feeling like we got absolutely nothing important done? Now, hearing a stat like that, it is so easy to feel hopeless, to think that focus is just a lost cause in the 21st century. But I need you to really hear this because it's the most important thing we're going to talk about. Your brain is not broken. Let that sink in for a second. You don't have a defective attention span. You have a perfectly healthy, incredibly powerful brain that has simply been trained by our modern world to crave constant distraction. You know, studies show that an untrained mind will naturally wander almost half the time anyway. That's kind of its default setting. But our world has put that tendency on steroids. The constant pinging, the buzzing, the endless algorithm-fueled stream of new information has taught your brain that jumping from one shiny object to the next is the right way to operate. But here's the incredible news, the part that changes everything. Focus is a skill. It is not a fixed trait you're born with. And just like any other skill, like learning an instrument or a new language, it can be trained, it can be strengthened, and it can be mastered through deliberate, consistent practice. So this isn't about trying harder or finding some mythical source of willpower. That whole approach is like trying to stop a flood with a paper towel. It's just a flawed strategy that's guaranteed to lead to burnout and frustration. So instead of fighting a battle of willpower you were destined to lose, we're going to build a system, a reliable, repeatable framework for taking back control of your own attention. We call it the sovereign mind, which is the ability to consciously and deliberately point your focus where you want it to go, when you want it to go there, on demand. It's all about shifting from being a passive subject in a kingdom of distraction to becoming the active ruler of your own mental kingdom. It's about you deciding what gets your attention instead of letting the world decide for you. This kind of focus is an engineered outcome, not some accident of birth. And today, you're getting the complete blueprint. To get there, here's our plan. First, we're going to look at the hijacking of your mind, because you have to know your enemy. Then, we'll lay down the biological bedrock, the physical foundation that all focus is built on.
After that, we'll get super practical with building your focus fortress, learning how to control your environment. Next, we'll move to the internal game in rewiring your brain for focus, training your mind from the inside out. And finally, we'll put it all together into one simple framework, the Sovereign Mind System.
All right, let's dive into section 1, the hijacking of your mind. Before you can even think about building a defense, you have to understand how you're being attacked. And it's so important to realize that distraction isn't just one thing. It's a relentless enemy that's coming at your attention from two completely different directions at the same time. Recognizing the difference between these two types of attacks is the absolute first step toward winning this war for your mind and building a life of intention instead of just constant reaction. Let's break them down.
So the whole problem of distraction really boils down to these two parts. On one side, you've got the external distractions. This is all the obvious stuff, right? The phone buzzing on the desk, the endless pop-ups, the coworker who doesn't see you're in the zone. These are tough because they're unpredictable, and they're literally engineered by some of the smartest people on the planet to be irresistible. But on the other side, you have an enemy that's way more subtle and honestly often more powerful: internal distractions. These are the interruptions that come from inside your own head. It's that sudden anxious thought about a bill you have to pay, or that pleasant daydream about your next vacation, or the totally random thought about the lyrics to a song you heard this morning. Remember, our minds naturally wander for almost half of our waking hours. So here's the kicker. Even if you were locked in a perfectly silent, empty room with no phone and no internet, you would still have to fight the constant storm of distractions generated by your own brain. The Sovereign Mind System is a full strategy designed to help you win on both of these fronts.
Okay, moving on to section 2, the biological bedrock. We almost always think of focus as a purely mental game, a battle of thoughts and willpower that happens in our heads. But that is a huge mistake. Your ability to direct and sustain your concentration starts with your physical body. It starts with the quality of the fuel you're giving your brain every single day. If you neglect this biological foundation, no productivity hack, no fancy app, no new planner is going to save you. You'll just be spinning your wheels, wondering why nothing seems to stick. This quote just nails the core idea. I want you to think of your ability to focus, what scientists call cognitive control, as a high-performance race car. It's an incredible machine, right? Capable of amazing things. But it is not getting off the starting line without premium fuel in the tank. As the quote says, attention is biologically expensive. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles focus and planning, is an energy hog. It just burns through glucose and oxygen. So trying to force yourself to do deep, concentrated work when you're sleep-deprived, poorly nourished, or haven't moved all day, it's like trying to run a marathon on an empty stomach. You're setting yourself up to fail from the start. You simply cannot outthink a depleted brain. Your biology will always win that fight.
So what is this premium biological fuel? It really comes down to 3 non-negotiable pillars. First, and you could argue it's the most important, is sleep. It is the single strongest predictor of how you will feel mentally and emotionally the next day. Sleep isn't just you shutting down. It's an active maintenance period for your brain. It's when this amazing cleanup crew called the glymphatic system kicks in and flushes out all the metabolic junk that builds up during the day. It's also when you lock in memories. Skimping on sleep is like never shutting down your computer for a system update. Eventually, it just gets slower, buggier, and way more likely to crash. Second is nutrition. What you eat directly and immediately impacts your mental clarity. Foods rich in omega-3s, like salmon or walnuts, are literally the physical building blocks of your brain cells. And nutrient-dense foods like leafy greens have antioxidants that protect those cells from damage and fight the inflammation that causes that brain fog feeling. And third, there's exercise, which is maybe the most direct and immediate way you can upgrade your brain's performance.
And the effects of regular exercise on your brain are just stunning. This chart gives you a quick look showing how physical activity gives you a massive boost across the board, in your memory, in your ability to plan and focus, and even in the raw speed at which your brain processes information. So how does it do this? Well, one of the coolest things is that exercise triggers the release of this amazing protein called BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor. The easiest way to think of BDNF is like fertilizer for your brain. It helps your existing neurons survive, and it encourages the growth of new ones. It literally helps you build a bigger, better, more connected brain. So when you exercise, you're not just working your muscles. You are priming your brain to be better at learning and concentrating. And the best part? This isn't just about killing yourself at the gym for an hour. Studies have shown that even a brisk walk gives you these incredible cognitive benefits. Okay, so we've shored up our biology from the inside. Now it's time to build our defenses against the attacks from the outside world. Welcome to Section 3, Building Your Focus Fortress. This is where we stop just passively reacting to the constant storm of external distractions and start proactively designing an environment, both physical and digital, that protects our attention instead of constantly stealing it. This is all about taking back control of the spaces you live and work in.
The core strategy we're going to use to build this fortress is a powerful idea called digital minimalism. Now, this isn't about throwing your phone in the lake and moving to a cabin in the woods. That's not really practical for most of us. Instead, it's a philosophy of being radically intentional. It forces you to stop and ask a really simple but profound question about every app, every website, every device in your life. Does this thing actually support something I deeply value? Does it make my life genuinely better? The goal is to shift from this state of mindless, reactive scrolling where algorithms are just pulling you around to one of conscious, purposeful engagement. It means you start using technology as a specific tool to serve your goals, not as a master that tells you how to spend your time. And the key phrase to remember, the real mindset shift, is happily miss out. You consciously accept that you can't and shouldn't keep up with everything, and there is an incredible freedom in that choice. So how do we actually put this into practice? Right now. Here are 3 concrete steps to start building your fortress today. Step 1, declare notification bankruptcy. I know it sounds extreme, but it is ruthless and necessary. Go into your phone and computer settings and turn off every single non-essential notification. The sounds, the banners that drop down, and especially those little red badges that are psychologically designed to create anxiety. If it isn't a real person trying to reach you in real time, it has to go. This one act puts you back in control. Step 2, schedule your inputs. Instead of letting things like email and social media pull you away from your work whenever they please, you set the terms. This means you batch these tasks. Maybe you decide to check email only at noon and 4 p.m. The rest of the day, that email tab is closed. You are in charge of the workflow. And step 3, create friction. Our phones are designed to be frictionless, making it way too easy to open distracting apps. Your job is to intentionally add that friction back in. One of the most powerful moves is to uninstall the most addictive apps, like social media, from your phone. If you really want to check them, you have to go to your laptop, open a browser, and log in. That tiny bit of extra effort is often more than enough to break the cycle of mindless, compulsive checking.
All right, so we've managed our biology. We've built a fortress in our environment. Now it's time for the final, and maybe the most important piece of the puzzle. Welcome to Section 4, Rewiring Your Brain for Focus. This is all about the internal training ground. Now that you've protected yourself from the external attacks, you've finally created the quiet space you need to train your mind to resist its own internal distractions. This is where we stop defending and start actively building that mental muscle of concentration from the inside out. The entire scientific reason this internal training even works is based on this amazing, empowering property of our brains, neuroplasticity. For a long, long time, scientists thought the adult brain was pretty much fixed, that it didn't change much. We now know that's completely wrong. Neuroplasticity means your brain is constantly physically changing and adapting based on your experiences, your thoughts, and your actions. Every single time you practice a skill, whether it's learning a new song on an instrument or trying to find your way around a new city, you are physically strengthening the neural pathways for that skill, making them faster and more efficient. And here's the most important part. This applies directly to the skill of attention. Your ability to focus is not some fixed trait you were born with. It is a skill that can be shaped. By doing specific training exercises, you can literally rewire the physical structure of your brain to get better at staying focused and ignoring distractions. The very first step in this internal training is to really understand the difference between the 2 kinds of work we all do every day. On one side, you have what the author Cal Newport calls deep work. This is when you're in that state of intense, distraction-free concentration, pushing your brain to its limits. This is the zone where you have breakthroughs, where you solve tough problems, and where you create real, lasting value that's hard for other people to do. On the other side, you have shallow work. These are the logistical tasks, answering routine emails, going to status meetings, scheduling things. These tasks are often necessary, but they don't require intense focus, and this is key, they don't build your concentration muscle. The problem is that the modern workplace is massively biased towards shallow work. It keeps us feeling busy, but not necessarily productive. So to rewire your brain for focus, you have to become almost militant about carving out and protecting time for deep work every single day.
So how do you actually train for deep work, especially if your focus muscle feels really weak right now? A fantastic place to start is the famous Pomodoro technique. It's so simple, but it's incredibly effective. First, you pick one single task to work on, no multitasking. Second, you set a timer for 25 minutes. Third, you promise yourself you will work only on that task, no interruptions until the timer goes off.
The moment it rings, you stop and you take a short 5-minute break. Get up, stretch, grab water, look out the window. After you've done 4 of these 25-minute cycles, you take a longer, more refreshing break of 15 to 30 minutes. This technique is brilliant because it trains your focus in these manageable little sprints. It respects your brain's natural rhythm of energy, and it builds in recovery, which stops you from burning out. It's basically interval training for your mind.
And the other foundational practice for your internal training is mindfulness. At its heart, mindfulness is just the practice of paying attention to what's happening right now, on purpose and without judging yourself for it. So how does this help with focus? I want you to think of it like doing a rep at the mental gym. A simple mindfulness exercise is to just sit quietly and focus on the feeling of your breath. Sooner or later, your mind will wander off. That's not a failure. That's just what minds do. It's totally normal. The rep, the moment of training, is when you notice that your mind has drifted and you gently, without getting mad at yourself, guide your attention back to your breath. Every single time you do that, you are strengthening your brain's inhibitory control, its basic ability to notice an internal distraction and then choose not to follow it down a rabbit hole. This practice directly trains the exact mental muscle you need to stay on task when worries, daydreams, or random thoughts try to pull you away.
We've covered the biology, the environment, and the internal training. We've looked at all the individual pieces, the nuts and bolts of focus. Now, let's bring it all home. This final section is all about putting these pieces together into a single, powerful framework, the Sovereign Mind system. This is where we see how all the parts connect to create an integrated approach to finally mastering your attention for good.
And this slide right here puts the entire system together in one place. It's built on these 3 interconnected pillars. First, you have your biological foundation, where the goal is just to fuel your brain for high performance. This is your non-negotiable commitment to sleep, movement, and good food. The second is your external fortress, where the goal is to ruthlessly block external distractions. You do this through digital minimalism, killing your notifications, and consciously designing a workspace that actually promotes focus. And the third is your internal training ground, where the goal is to train the mind itself. This is where you put in the reps with deep work sessions, the Pomodoro technique, and a consistent mindfulness practice. Now notice how they all support each other. That's the key. Your biology gives you the raw energy for training. Your fortress gives you the protected space you need for that training. And the training itself physically rewires your brain to make focus your new default setting. They work together as one powerful, complete system.
So if there is one single thing to take away from all of this, it is right here. Focus is not a battle of willpower. It is not about gritting your teeth and trying harder. That is, and it always will be, a losing strategy that just leads to frustration. True, reliable, on-demand focus is an engineered outcome. It's the direct result of the system you intentionally build for yourself. It's something you construct, piece by piece, day by day, by taking care of your biology, designing your environment, and deliberately training your mind. And that is an incredibly empowering idea. It means your ability to concentrate isn't some weird gift you either have or you don't. It is 100% within your control. You are the architect of your own attention. You have the power to design a life of focus and intention. We've laid out the entire blueprint for you. You have the principles, the strategies, and the techniques to go from a state of constant, reactive distraction to one of sovereign, intentional control. The path is clear, so the only question left is the one that really matters. What will you create? What problems will you solve? What will you build with a mind that is finally truly your own? If you want more systems like this, make sure you subscribe.